What's up, action takers, the community of doers? I hope you're doing fine. Finally. 2-digit number. Now we are in episode 10. And I love the kind of milestone we are taking. 52 weeks, here we come. That's our first milestone. I tend to think that you can look at life in two different perspectives. And this concept goes to very, very extreme ends. Such that there are things for you to accomplish in life. You have to put everything on the line. You have to sacrifice. You have to push yourself as much as you can. On the other extreme end is that some of the things that we accomplish in life probably don't need that much effort, but they bring monumental change in our collective living. That is how I want to begin this conversation. And I want us to look at those two extreme ends. I'm going to capitalize more on making sure that you sacrifice, because that is the bit that is a bit difficult for us as human beings. Now, before we go deep into the differences in the two extremes about sacrifice and the things that you can achieve without that much of an effort but brings monumental change in our lives, let me ask you to subscribe to this YouTube channel so that we can continue building this community and also to promote this message to get to as many people as possible. Now, our minds have been accustomed to think that for us to make tremendous changes in our lives, we have to do things that are extraordinarily difficult. In some instances, that is not true. The fact that we have 5 senses takes us to a point that we think that which we cannot see therefore does not exist. And that's not true. Because we have intuition, and also there are things that you can do in your life that are so easy such that you cannot sabotage them, and they continue happening organically, and they can actually bring tremendous change in our lives. But most times we find ourselves matching or quantifying the amount of progress to the amount of difficulties in doing what we are doing. We tend to think that the more hard an action or a thing is, the higher the difference or the higher the change that is going to bring to our lives. So I want to challenge that concept by looking and appreciating that we have two extremes. That there are changes in our lives, very tremendous change in our lives, that will happen with very, very organic actions. Actions which are so obvious to a point that you cannot even sabotage them. But on the contrary, there are things that require intentional sacrifice for us to achieve. That is what I want us to appreciate in the couple of meetings that I want us to talk about this. Now, having said that, when you find yourself doing something that barely takes much of your effort, or something that you can barely actually tell the kind of change that is bringing to your life, because it's not hard for you to do, but you can spot the difference that is making in your life, please don't sabotage it. And secondly, don't look down on that specific thing that you're doing. Regardless of the fact that you don't feel as if you're giving it your all, but you can actually see the changes that it's bringing, regardless of the simplicity of what you're doing. Appreciate the fact that you cannot sabotage it because it does not cost you, and keep on perpetuating that action happening. And I tell you for a fact that the same reward that you can get by doing a hard thing, the same reward you get by doing that thing that is not costing you that much, but is bringing the prerequisite reward by change in your life. Now, let me look at the other extreme, which I think is more difficult and needs a bit more intentionality in accomplishing it. I look at life from a point of the most important thing in many instances, it's not what you're willing to do for you to achieve what you want. A question that I think is neglected by most people is that people fail to ask themselves, what are they willing to sacrifice for them to achieve what they set to achieve? Do you sit and consciously ask yourself, for these goals and objectives and for this course that I'm taking in my life, what am I willing to give up for the sake of achievement of this? Because in the journey of you taking up on what you're taking on, you will have to sacrifice. So do we consciously ask ourselves that? That is the kind of conversation I want us to look at. The conventionality of just putting the action plan, that this is what I want to accomplish and this is what I have to do for me to accomplish this. I want us to add on top of that this is what I want to accomplish and this is what I'm supposed to do for me to accomplish this, the action plan. And on top of that, this is what I'm willing to sacrifice for the sake of this cause. Now, what are some of the attributes of our day-to-day lives that we might find ourselves sacrificing for the sake of different things that we want to achieve in our lives? The first that I want to look at is time. You need time for you to accomplish anything that you set yourself on. You have to sacrifice some time. Time away from your personal life, meaning putting more time in that thing that you want to accomplish, and also your social time, the time you spend with people. Some weekends probably you're gonna decide to continue pursuing that for you to hit those deadlines that you want to hit. Probably you had set to have an activity with your friends or with people. That is going to make you have to sacrifice that. It's not something that is very, very popular, but you'll find yourself being required to do that. So, do you ask yourself that question in the beginning, that if at some point I'll have to sacrifice my personal and social time, are you willing to actually do it? The second thing that I want to look at is your comfort. As the very, very obvious phrase that we know, I can even call it a cliche, something that we've said too many times, we tend to discount its meaning. Success is out of your comfort zone. Apparently you have to sacrifice some of your personal comfort. You have to sacrifice some of your personal comfort. I can't over-explain on this because you know what you're comfortable doing. So if you're called upon to sacrifice on those things that you find comfortable for the sake of what you want to achieve, are you willing to do that? Depending on what exactly you're being asked to sacrifice. The third thing is probably for the people who are in business or people who are pursuing financial stability for that matter. It's just an example I'm using. Probably your financial stability. If you're starting a business, probably you will invest much of your money into a business that probably at a personal level you might feel it doesn't sit well with you. But in the beginning, you will have to. So in the context of business and the finance aspect, sometimes you have to sacrifice the stability that you feel by having sufficient, by investing more than you're willing to those things to make yourself better. But of course, within a budget that allows you to transact your money in a sane way. The other thing, which I think falls in part of the comfort, is your leisure time. I think I had talked about that. Something else that is very profound: immediate gratification. The immediate feel-good effect that comes by doing things that we enjoy. Succeeding faster. Things that we need to sacrifice. You need to practice delayed gratification. Can you sacrifice what you want today for what you want to accomplish tomorrow? What are you willing to sacrifice today? And not entirely sacrifice. What are you willing to delay yourself today for what you want to become in future? Understand it and be cautious about it, and ask yourself if you're willing to actually do it when you're called upon by your goals and objectives and the things that you want to accomplish. The other, which is a bit sensitive, is your relationships. Some things you're going to do probably will not align well with the people that you're close to. Probably family members, friends, partner, and so forth. Colleagues. If you accomplishing some of your goals entails that you do something that is uncomfortable with them, are you willing to put everything at stake on those relationships and you pursuing it? You have to know if you're willing to do that. Because if you're not willing, then there is no need of wasting time of entering into a course that you know. The moment it does not sit well with some people who are close to you, that's when you give up. So you need to assess that from the beginning, that in this journey that I'm taking, I'm going to be required to do some things that are going to make the people close to me a bit uncomfortable. How am I going to handle that situation? Am I going to step back? Am I going to try to explain to them? Or am I going to proceed with it and allow them to adjust to the new version of me that is coming up by me pursuing this? And also, I think you owe them a conversation. It's just not a matter of ignoring them and doing it because you have to do it. You have to handle it with a lot of sensitivity. It means that if you know that there are things that you're going to do that are going to not sit well with them or make them uncomfortable, you need to communicate prior to that so that you start preparing them and having those difficult conversations that will come up when that time comes. Moving forward, still on the things that we need to sacrifice. I'm spending a bit more on this because I believe these are conversations that most people don't have with themselves. They just find themselves in that situation that they need to sacrifice, and some people even get stranded. So it is important for us to know that we will be required to sacrifice at some point so that we can prepare ourselves on how we are going to handle that specific instant when that time comes. Because getting to that point where you need to sacrifice in the pursuit of any endeavor is inevitable. I can go on and on and on things that you need or things that you'll be required to sacrifice as you move forward. But I'm going to call upon ourselves that in the beginning of any endeavor, please take a conscious decision to outline the different things that you will need to sacrifice, if any, for the sake of what you want to accomplish. You may not capture everything in the beginning, but prepare yourself and have that continuous follow-up of the sacrifices that you need to make so that you can make them intentionally and you can make them correctly. A few people have spoke about the need of sacrifice or the role of sacrifice in the achievement of our goals and objectives. I want to look at 2 or 3 people as I wind up on this. The first person is Frederick Douglass. And this is what Frederick Douglass said, that if there is no struggle, there is no progress. If there is no struggle, there is no progress. It's not obvious, but I would want to reinforce it through this aspect. That if the progress that you want to make or the direction of progress that you want to take entails you getting into a struggle, then you have to, or else you will not have what you want. So if the direction that you want to take has obstacles and hindrances, you have to act appropriately for you to be able to reach where you want to go. The next person is Tony Robbins, and this is what he said. The path to success is to take massive, determined action. Massive, determined action. Determined means that regardless of what you're going to face along this way, you are determined to have or to achieve a specific goal. You have laser focus towards something that you're very clear about. The last person that I'm going to look at is Arnold Schwarzenegger, and this is what he said, that you can't climb the ladder of success with your hands in your pocket. You can't climb the ladder of your success with your hands in your pocket. You have to do the work. You have to do the work. You have to get out there and put yourself to work. I want to wind up on that and appreciate you for getting to this point. This also means that you're very determined to consume this information in a more intentional and detailed way so that you can be able to go and execute in your life in a way that is meaningful to you. So thank you very much for this far. We keep moving, we keep going, and always remember to show up for your life. See you on the next one.